students may be asking questions, so I'll just monitor that and ask the questions on their behalf. And we'll start in just a moment.
Are
If
you
you're joining
including?
us for the first time, welcome. If you have been with us before, welcome back. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A portal, and we will get to them as time allows. Special thanks to Beth Steele Radisick, whose efforts made this conversation possible. Okay, let's begin. Hello, and welcome to FilmSlam Stream's post-film conversation for Shot Down. My name is Eric Siler, and I'm a professor of film, media arts, and communications, as well as moderator for this conversation. We are very pleased to be joined by the producer and the subject in the film Shot Down, Steve Snyder. Hello, Steve, and welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, Eric.
It is great to have you and have you here for this really interesting film. To work with you to create this film?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you tell us how this film came about? How you worked with the director, Michael Mazer, to get this film done?
Sure. Well, I've made 6 trips to Belgium over the years. My first trip was in 1994 with my parents. And on 2 of our trips, we did some filming in 2016 and 2018. My youngest son, Clayton, who was a film studies major at college, and I went over with different individuals to film all these locations where the events took place in Belgium. And we had hundreds and just hours and hours and hours of footage. And initially we thought we might make a full-length documentary out of it. But we didn't really know where to start. And then when we investigated it more, it seemed like making a full-length documentary was going to be a little expensive. So finally, my son Clayton, he was an actor as well for a while in Hollywood, so he had connections. And he knew Michael Mazer, who was an editor and a filmmaker. So we just gave him all this footage and said, well, why don't we just do something shorter, and we can maybe have a documentary short and then use it as a trailer perhaps to see if we could get any interest in anyone who would be interested in making a feature film about the book. And so we gave this to Michael, and then he came back with this 13-minute documentary short, which was the end result. And I was really astounded by what he did, because I had no idea exactly what he was going to do. Most of the footage in the film was of me talking, but then I provided Michael with a lot of photographs we've taken over the years. And he incorporated those, and then interviews I did with people in Belgium, and then the Luftwaffe pilot Hansberger that shot down my dad. And he did a fabulous job. I thought, I go to a lot of film festivals, and so I see movies and documentaries, and I thought, well, I think this is just as good as some of the things that I see in film festivals. So I go, I'm going to enter it into film festivals and see what happens. And it's done pretty well, and it's been an amazing experience.
Indeed, it's great that you decided to bring this book to life. Even more people are probably exposed to it. So let's get to one of the parts of the story. You meeting Hansberger. Tell us, how did that come about, and why did you want to meet him?
Okay. Oh, well, all my dad knew, and all the U.S. Air Force military knew, was that my dad's B-17 bomber was attacked by 2 German fighters, Focke-Wulf 190s. And that's all I thought I'd ever know. It didn't even dawn on me when I was starting my research to try to find him, because I thought it'd be impossible. Most likely he died in the war, or it's 50 years later, he probably passed on. Good chance that he passed on by then. And then I can't speak German. But one day my wife just casually said, well, why don't you try to find the German pilot that shot down your dad's plane? And at the time I thought it was a foolish idea. She's naive. She doesn't know what she's talking about. But like a good husband, I did what she told me to do. And I went on Google and just put in trying to find a Luftwaffe pilot, and a couple forums came up, which I joined. And I posted an inquiry because I knew the day that my dad's plane was shot down, the time of day and the location. And in a week, two guys got back to me, one from Belgium and one from England. And on that day, there were 12 B-17 shot down, and the one that was shot down south of Chimay, Belgium, which was just north of the French border, was shot down by Hansberger. And he became a translator after the war, so he speaks perfect English. The man from Belgium who contacted me, he was a Luftwaffe historian, had written a number of books about the Luftwaffe, which is the German Air Force. And he knew Hans from his research. And so he contacted Hans and asked Hans if it would be okay if I contacted him about this book that I was writing. And Hans said, okay. And I was so elated and so excited to find Hans. And then I found out that at the same time that Hans shot down my dad's plane, the gunners on my dad's plane shot Hans down. They actually shot each other down, which is amazing. And Hans bailed out and he made it through the war. And for the book, I just interviewed him over the telephone and through email. It wasn't until after I wrote the book that I actually met Hans in person a couple of times.
Yeah, but you just said you were elated. But this is the man who shot down, could have killed your father. Why were you elated to find him?
That's a very good question. I get asked that quite frequently. People say, well, don't you hate this guy that shot down your dad's plane? But really, in essence, he was pretty much just like the American airman. He was 19, 20 years old, just a young guy fighting for his country, trying to do a job and trying to stay alive. And I felt a personal connection with Hans because World War II was the defining moment of my dad's life, probably for any man who fought in World War II. There was nothing that could surpass that. And at one point in history, one point in time, my dad's path and Hans' path, crossed. So Hans is part of my dad's story, part of my dad's life. And so I felt a real, connection to him, and we've become friends. He said it was unfortunate that they had to be shooting at each other, but that was war, and that they were there to do. So no, I have nothing but positive feelings about Hans, and it's been wonderful going to Munich, Germany, where he lives.
So what was Hans's reaction? Was he a little bit leery, a little bit cautious? Because he might think, okay, are you here to finish the job?
Well, I did bombard him with questions because I wanted to, find out all this information that I could. And at one point he goes, Steve, you're asking me a lot of personal questions and I really don't know you very well. But, over time I built up his trust, and so it was okay. Since I first talked to him, now he's a little hesitant the older he gets to talk about the war, because it brings back a lot of bad memories. Almost all of his pilot friends were all killed in the war, and he had family that was killed in Germany during the war. So it does have bad memories, and he has quite a story. After the war ended, all the German military men had to go back to their hometowns. He was from Dresden, which was controlled by the Russians in East Germany. And he almost got captured and was sent to Siberia, and he'd probably die there in a labor camp, but he escaped into West Germany and escaped the Russians. So he has quite a history as well.
Hey, well, we're talking to the producer and the subject of Shot Down, Steve Snyder. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A portal and we'll get to them as time allows. So, can you tell us how this film was received? I don't know if you had a chance to show it overseas or here in the States. What has the reaction been to this film?
Oh, it's been overwhelmingly positive. Uh, I initially showed a kind of a rough cut of the film in 2019 in August at the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Belgium and of my dad's plane being shot down there in southern Belgium. About 25 relatives of my dad's crew, we went over for the anniversary celebrations. And then there's an organization there in Belgium called the Duty to Remember Association that has erected a number of memorials in the area to honor events that took place in liberating the country from 4 years of Nazi Germany occupation and oppression. And we had a dinner one night. And so I kind of premiered the film there and brought tears to a lot of people's eyes. And then entered into the various film festivals. It's unfortunate that my timing on this film coincided with the COVID outbreak, coronavirus outbreak. So all the film festivals last year that it was shown in were all shown virtually, and I wasn't able to attend those in person and do Q&As and get personal feedback. But it's been very positive. It's a lot of people tell me when they watch it, it does bring tears to their eyes. But it's been very gratifying, and I just hope more people can see it.
I hope so too. Such an important history lesson. Another aspect of the film that was very interesting was that after your father was shot down, he went on to join the French resistance to fight against the Germans. I mean, he could have had a perfect reason to, come back home and possibly be a war hero. Well, why was it that he decided to go and join the French resistance?
Well, that's a great question too, Eric. After his plane was attacked, two of the crew, a B-17 had a 10-man crew. Two of the crew members died in the plane. The other 8 airmen were able to bail out. And when my dad bailed out, he came down into some trees and his parachute got hung up on the branches and he was dangling 20 feet off the ground and couldn't get down. But fortunately for him, a couple of young Belgian men, Henri Franken and Raymond Dervan, came to his rescue before the Germans could find him. And then after that, he was moved from place to place to place, being hidden by various Belgian people. But finally, he got tired of hiding. He was almost discovered by the German secret police, the Gestapo, on several occasions. And it was very stressful for him. After all his planes attacked, it's on fire. He comes down in a foreign country, has no idea where he is, and he's being helped by total strangers. And any of these people could be a collaborator and turn him over to the Gestapo. And on June 6th, when the Allies invaded Normandy on D-Day, word filtered up to where he was staying in Belgium that occurred, and he wanted to get back into the fight. Unlike most airmen, he was in the infantry for a year before he went into the Air Force, so he knew how to fight on the ground. But like you say, the smart thing or the safe thing to do would have been for him to just stay hidden and stay in hiding with the Belgians and just wait for the US armies to come up through France after D-Day. Because joining the French resistance was extremely dangerous. He could have died in the fighting, and if the Germans had captured him, he would have been shot on the spot as a terrorist. But he felt it was his duty to get back in the fight. That there were soldiers and airmen still fighting, risking their lives, and he felt it was his duty. I doubt if I or many people would have done that. The courage and bravery that he had to have to decide to fight with the French resistance is kind of mind-boggling, but that's what he decided to do. And so he fought with the French resistance against the Germans for a couple months before the US armies did finally come up through France after D-Day. And then he met up with them and made it back to England.
Hmm.
So, and there was several instances or stories in the book or about encounters that he and the French resistance group, there are about 20 in the group that he fought with, had against the Germans. So yeah, amazing. But all those guys who went to fight in World War II were showed amazing bravery and courage to fight for our freedoms that we enjoy today.
Hmm. Let me get a little more personal. Your dad was definitely an inspiration. How did he inspire you in your life? What has he done to make you the person you are today?
Oh gosh, um, I loved my parents very dearly. They both died in 2007. They were extremely loving, devoted couple. They were great examples of what a happy marriage should be. They were devout Christians, which I am. Just set great examples. My dad, he was kind of, my sisters and I compared him to John Wayne. He was kind of a no nonsense guy. He was a big guy, a rugged guy. But a loving father. He coached my little league teams. We spent a lot of time together, and he instilled in us, to be strong, have strong character, to build, strong morals. Just the honesty to be a good citizen and to work hard. He just instilled all those principles that really all those people, that during that time, I think they are the greatest generation and instilled and tried to preach to their children, made me do chores, even though, you didn't want to do them. And so he was just a great example of a fine man, a fine Christian man. So I've tried to, use that in my life. So I was very blessed.
Well, good, because I know times, people want to try to live up to their parents' expectations, but it seems like he and your mom established a great foundation for you to do this testament to him through your book and through your film. So I'm sure he appreciates this, even though he's passed on, he appreciates what you're doing.
Yes, it's unfortunate that I didn't decide to do all this while he was still living. He would have been amazed by it. I'm kind of amazed by it. It's really changed my life since I've written this book. It's a whole second career now, because except for last year with the coronavirus situation, in most years I travel all over the United States, attending air shows, signing copies of my book, and I do a lot of presentations to all sorts of groups all around the United States. So that's beginning to come back a little bit now, but it's my motto is it's our duty to remember the air war over Europe, World War II, to honor the men who fought it, and to try to educate the public about it, especially younger generations, because the end of World War II was 75 years ago, and it's fading in people's memories, and we have to try to keep those memories alive, and the sacrifice that those people made, as I mentioned earlier, to fight and preserve the freedoms that we enjoy today, that so many of us, just take for granted because we've always had them.
Absolutely. And this is a commendable thing that you're doing. Some people might say, oh, he's just trying to, capitalize on his father when he's done. But this is done all out of sincerity and done out of, like you said, educating people to history. And I just love your approach to this. And I, wish you, the best as you continue to educate people.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's become my passion. And, the book is just not about my father, but it's about what happened to each member of the crew, because something different happened to each guy. 5 of the men came back, but 5 of them did not. And also it's about all those courageous Belgian people that risked their lives trying to help my dad and other members of his crew, who, if because if the Germans, the Gestapo found out about it, those people would have been arrested, tortured, and either sent to concentration camps or shot. And some of the people who helped my dad and other members of his crew did meet that fate. So it's really bigger than my dad. It's about all the men who fought in the 8th Air Force, all the people who fought during World War II. And as you say, I didn't write the book to try to make money. If you're an independent author, you're not going to make a lot of money. You have to be a famous person to make a lot of money writing a book to get that exposure. But I just feel so strongly and keep passing that message out and trying to educate people that it just became my kind of life's work, I guess you might say.
Life's work, absolutely. Before I let you go, last question is the day you and your dad went to Belgium, I know he was treated like a celebrity. Take us back to that time. What was it like for you and for your father?
It was pretty incredible. My dad had made a couple trips to Belgium prior to that. In 1989, they erected a memorial to my dad and his crew in the little village of Mackinoise, Belgium, near where the plane came down. And in 1994, it was the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Belgium and my dad's plane going down. So my parents asked me if I would accompany them to the ceremonies. They were getting a little older. And so actually, my wife and I, and then my other sister Nancy, accompanied them to the ceremonies, not knowing what we really to expect. But that's when it became personal for me, because I saw all these places and locations where my dad stayed, these houses and farms where my dad was hidden. Met one of his helpers that hid him, and then just saw the respect and the gratitude of the Belgian people toward my dad. It was, I get goosebumps just talking about it now. It was, he could not have been treated any better than the President of the United States. It was just a wonderful feeling to be there with him, to get that recognition, but also go around and kind of walk in his footsteps when he was serving during World War II. So that was very, very meaningful.
I bet it was a remarkable day, remarkable life for your father, your mother, and for you and your family as well. Well, Steve Snyder, producer and subject in Shot Down, thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, I'm delighted to have been here. Thank you for the interview, and I appreciate it very much.
You're quite welcome. And thank you to our audience for joining us for this important and invigorating conversation. For more information about the current 45th Cleveland International Film Festival or any of our upcoming film festivals, please continue to follow us on social media or visit us at clevelandfilm.org. I'm Eric Siler. Thank you.